Good start to Monday, Carl. 4-1 advancing to declining stocks. So once again, there is this sort of negative correlation between the markets and most shorted names. When they're down, the market tends to be up. And as on Friday, exactly vice versa tends to happen. So if you look at the sectors, you know what? This looks like the reopening story to me. So once again, what was the old market leaders? Semiconductors and China. What's the old market leaders today? Semiconductors and China. Industrials too. Banks, too. What's lagging? Defensive names like consumer staples. This is the reopening play. Now, if you look at our heavily shorted friends that are out there, mixed today, but generally to the downside. GameStop, as Carl mentioned, moving in a much more narrow range down. AMC is the only one that's really up there. Unusual situation here, moving in opposition to the other most shorted names, Bed Bath & Beyond, Express. Also to the downside. So you see that sort of negative or inverse correlation with the markets, I think, is continuing here today. As for all this speculation about silver, I have no idea about it, but can I point out silver is a very heavily regulated commodity. It is silver futures are regulated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and they can and do routinely change margin requirements. They did it most recently on August 11th. You can see that little circle there in the middle. Silver plunged 11% on August 11th. Gold did as well. Why? Well, because there was speculation about vaccines coming out. Gold and silver were moving in opposition to the vaccine story. So dropped. And the CFTC stepped in and raised margin requirements. They raised margin requirements for silver futures like 15% on that day. This is when it dropped. They stepped in. Now, my point is they're not going to watch this thing go through the roof. They're going to step in and do something, and they would do it as part of their routine activities to ensure fair and orderly markets overall. So I don't expect a lot of dramatic through-the-roof movements here in silver. As for the markets themselves, the main stories are still well known to the market. The rollout continues for the vaccine. The stimulus is still, the debate over the weekend amongst traders I talked to is larger is more likely than smaller. So they're talking 1.9 trillion with the Democrats, 600 billion. And obviously, the belief here is it's going to be towards the higher side. Maybe not 1.9 trillion, but somewhere in the middle or a little bit higher here. Nobody thinks the Fed's going to taper in 2021. At least the trading community does not. And earnings, we're getting good beats continuing. The problem is we know most of this. The risk is on the downside for the market. The risk of this is not occurring. So what we need to see here is some nice surprises. So far, we've been getting the great surprises here. We see about 38% reporting on the earnings. 85% beating by about 18%. This is what happened in the third quarter. This is what the market needs to see. Pleasant surprises, much better than anticipated. And, Carl, the good news is if you look at the first quarter, which is what we care about right now, the numbers are going up steadily in the last week. We were talking about 16% up in the first quarter. Now we're talking about close to 19%, close to 20% rise in the first quarter. Carl, that's really good news for the markets.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.